Hi everybody, I'm Lena Robinson and welcome to Lena Unedited. It's been a while. I've just been busy getting business up on running again. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I just didn't really feel like talking for a little bit. I was busy doing stuff. But I wanted to talk about a subject today that I think is really important, especially at the time. It's something I've been thinking a lot about in the last couple of weeks, is about success. And so the area I'm going to talk about today is I think we've been measuring success all wrong. Controversial, maybe. So I wanted to start off with looking back, where did I get my ideas of what success looks like? And I think we can probably all ask ourselves the same question, like, where did it start? Like what formed the bias that I've got in my head of what success looks like? And I think, to be honest, a lot of it's got to do with the media. I think television definitely showed me what I thought success looked like. I think films, I think magazines. I grew up in a world where there was no internet or what have you, so I certainly didn't get influenced by the internet during my formative years. I think there were people around me, definitely my parents, helped me form probably a more balanced view of success, actually, to a certain degree, luckily. And I think being part of, at the time when I was much, much younger, I think some of you already know this, I was brought up a Jehovah's Witness. I think just being kind and thoughtful to other people was a decent measure of success as well. So in some ways, I've had quite a, holistic view of what success looks like. But I definitely know that school, definitely it was about academics. It was being an A student or A plus student, whatever. It was achieving academic results. It was about heading towards a certain commercial business career goal. It was getting a certain type of job. It was, I definitely think school had a lot to do with what I now consider probably not necessarily the right view of success. And I think I also had influence definitely once I hit work. I think work definitely, and the bosses that I had who had gained success. I had my first proper big boss was a guy called Cliff Cook, who is now very successful, multi-millionaire in New Zealand, but also has businesses over here as well. And he'd started with nothing. And so I had that in front of me. I had a hardworking boss. And there was definitely this view of if you work hard, success comes your way. And that came from school. It came from my parents, and it came from the bosses that I had and the people that I guess I looked up to of what I thought success looked like. I never thought celebrity was success, to be honest. And definitely society, industry, school, I think, and my parents were the four biggest things that I measured success on. So I guess the last couple of years I've been at the top of my game when I was in the ad agency world on a 6-figure salary and having a really successful career and so forth. And I've also been in the depths of despair with not having a job, my business not working because I was ill. That all happened around illness and so forth, which some of you are also aware of. And having to go on benefits, which is one of the most humiliating things I've probably had to do. So I've had top and bottom, or what society probably calls top and bottom of success. But, so on paper, I've definitely had those times where I was at the top of my game. I'd reached the echelon that I wanted to get to in the ad agency game. I was, traveling around the world, running pitches. And, I considered myself a success on all matters of work related. Relationships, my friendships have always been reasonably successful. Personal relationships, romantic relationships, maybe not so, definitely not so much. But that's because I've also chosen to, in my older years, to choose who is the right person to be with. Sorry, I've just been getting notifications. I'm going to turn that off. And I think it's really important that I look at things now as to what does success actually mean to me in this new world that I find myself in, and my health returning, my businesses getting back on their feet. And I think we all need to ask ourselves is, that when I saw success on paper looking good, I need to ask myself, did I actually feel happy? Did I feel fulfilled, or did I feel at peace with all of that? I'm going to be honest with you. No, I didn't. And I'm not sure I even knew at the time that I wasn't feeling that sort of feeling of happiness and fulfillment and peace until I'd got through the other side of my illness and took a look back and went, I really wasn't that happy. I was using drinking substances to feel better about life. I was measuring success by what I thought others thought would make me successful, as opposed to what feels good and feels right. So I guess you got to ask yourself, what are we all measuring success by right now? And why are there so many people out there feeling exhausted and anxious and empty, even after they've achieved what they thought was success? A lot of people look at success and think money is a huge part of success. Status is a huge part of success. A lot of the younger generation think it's followers, job titles, productivity, visibility, growth even, especially for business owners. We measure all what we do by very specific, non-emotive and non-soft skill kind of measurements. And I'd like to know, it'd be really interesting to know if any of you have felt the same. Leave some comments, leave some thoughts on it. That'd be really, really nice to know, because I would like to understand what others are feeling on this as well. Now, I guess the question is that, I started off over here thinking success looked like XYZ. I definitely know that from my parents, I still think success needs to look like happiness. Am I truly happy? And I think that's a really good, are we content in our lives? Are we content in the life that we're living in the everyday? And I think it's really important to measure those elements when it comes to do it. We consider ourselves successful. But I do ask myself how, in the last few years, both with growing older, just having more experience, but also having experienced burnout, having experienced loss of myself through illness, and loss of what I thought was ultimately where I was going in life. I just sold a business. I was heading in an amazing direction with FTSQ, and then all hell broke loose when I got ill, and then everything got knocked sideways. This reinvention that I've kind of been doing of myself, of what does the new Lena, probably 3.0, I guess, look like? And I mean, how has my personal definition of success changed? So I'm going to be really clear. When you run a business, earning money is important. We need to pay our bills. We need to it's really important that we don't worry about bills and so forth. I think because it messes with your head quite a lot when you're in debt. I think, but should we be measuring our success purely by the financial side of our businesses and the status that we gain? Like, one of the things I've been thinking about is, I've been out of the game in quite a big way for the last number of years, at least over 5 to 6, I think maybe even 7 years now. And my reputation, although it's still the same with the people that I knew, it's not as broad and it's not as big. And I enjoyed the status of, the roles that I had at Wonderman and the role that I had at Dentsu particularly was where I felt like I hit my goals as far as my career was concerned. The success I had at starting up Kiwi Girl that then turned into Kiwi Grey, that Adam is now managing as Grey Matters, running as Grey Matters. And I think, there was a measure of success of Lena. If I wanted to be on a stage or I wanted to do something, I could just pick up a phone and talk to somebody. That has disappeared a little bit over the last few years because I had disappeared out of the world. So status was always really, really important to me. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's probably still is. Recognition for me is really important. If you want to talk love language, recognition is one of my languages of what makes me feel good. So status to a certain degree, I'm going to be honest, still does matter. Which, I do look at my social medias and I do look at what happens on my YouTube and so forth. And followers, I think it's more about, followers for me is more about what's the impact I can have on people's lives and what is the impact that I can have on a community, and building community is really, really important to me as well. So, for me, followers isn't exactly what I'm looking for, but I want people to hear me. I want to be heard. I want to be seen and understood. Recognition is important. Productivity is really important to me, especially over the last few years. My ability to be productive had gone through the floor. I'm gaining it back now. Like, I find it really difficult. Just even silly things like, if I want to watch a film on TV, I've usually got either my laptop or on my phone. I'm usually doing something, or I've got knitting. I can't just sit there and not do anything because it feels like I'm being unproductive. So I definitely know that I measure past and current success of what I've produced, what I've created, what I've built, what I've given to people, what impact I've made. I can't just, and I don't know why, and it's something I'm working on. I can't just sit there and not, do something. Visibility, going back to the recognition, is definitely something that I think is still quite important to me. And growth. But interestingly enough, I'm more settled on what growth looks like. I think for me, growth is just, again, goes back to, am I earning enough money to feel comfortable and not feel stressed about debt? Whereas before it was like I needed to earn the biggest amount of money I could possibly earn. Growth now to me is mental and emotional growth. It's the growth I have with growing a community that I can help. It's about growing my business back to a state where I'm not worried about money anymore, because I still am. Whether that will go or not, I don't know. I hope it does. But I do think growth is important as well. But it's not about, some people constantly just look at the P&L or look at how much profit they're making. I don't care about that. I just want to live a comfortable, happy life. I want to, and to be honest, I never really was that person. I never really measured, which is odd for a new business person, to be fair. And it is how the difference that and I'm not saying they're wrong, they're just different, right? Necessarily, maybe I am saying they're wrong. No, I think they are probably wrong. I think if you just measure success by how much money you've got in a bank account and how much turnover you've got and how much profit you're making, you're fucking fucked. I'm going to be honest, you're fucked. I don't think that is in any way, shape or form a pure version of success, because here's the thing. Nobody goes to their grave and has on their gravestone the bank balance on their bank account. No, it's what kind of husband, wife, parent, child, friend, partner, supporter, what kind of human being were you? And I think if we measure success by that, then I think we're on a much better trajectory. And it is why I think we've got it wrong. I think if we strip away comparison, so I think there was always a saying about, keeping up with the Joneses. And I think there's definitely a really negative element around that on social media. I think there's a lot of reason why there is a huge amount of depression with young people, with young men and young women, or whatever agenda you subscribe to. I think, there is a comparison that we do because of social media. I think there is expectation from parents. I think there are particular cultures that put huge amount of expectation on their children, not just not just on what financial job they have or how much money they've got, but who they marry and all those kinds of things, and how many kids they've got. And I think we compare ourselves all of the time, but I think parents do have expectations in particular cultures. I think they want people to be lawyers and accountants and doctors and so forth. And I think a lot of people, we head it down those routes and because their parents want them to, and not because that's what they want to do. And I think that's really sad. And I think a lot of people leave quite unfulfilled lives because of those expectations that are put on them by parents, family members, cultures, and society in general. And the expectation, and here's where I get it wrong, the expectation I put on myself of what I think others think success looks like, rather than actually what the success should look like. And then, how we perform, like what should success genuinely look and feel like for me now? It's quite different. I think number one is my health. If I am healthy and well and not in pain, and my fibromyalgia flare-ups are dropped, and I've got my diabetes under control, and my weight is dropped because my diabetes is under control, and I'm feeling healthy and well, and my brain is working. Like that, for me, number one, health is now my number one priority when it comes to measuring of success. I think the next thing is peace and contentment in life. I think inner peace, I think is really, really, for me, a really important thing. And I think for a lot of other people, you can chase after happiness, but you can feel contentment. And I think there are very different things. I think a lot of people go, once I do this, I will be happy. Once I achieve that, I will be happy. And I think if you think that is what the goal is, I think you're on a highway to nowhere again. I think sitting in peace, sitting in contentment, sitting in feeling okay in oneself, I think is a much higher and important goal. For me personally, I think, and I think this is for a lot of people, and I'm going to broadly use this word, the ability and time and space to be creative. Now, I don't mean just artists. I don't just mean performing artists. I don't just mean people that consider themselves in the creative industries. I am talking about creative thinking, imagination, thought, doing things differently. I think creativity comes in so many forms. For me, I know when things aren't going well was when my ideas stop happening, the creativity stops happening. And I know and understand about myself that one of the important things to be able to achieve that is headspace, it's time, it's lack of overwhelm, so feeling good about how I'm managing life and so forth. And I think creativity for me is a really good measuring stick of, the more creative I am is a really good indicator that I'm feeling good about life and myself and so forth. I think that keeping my integrity, despite the fact that, I can be tempted sometimes to take on work or take on clients or take on things that challenge my integrity because I'm worried about money. I think for me personally, when I hold to my level of integrity, which I know is probably a little, sometimes people think it's a little bit too high, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. My integrity is something that's vitally important to me. I won't lie about things, I won't steal about things, I'm always honest and honourable about things, and that's because of how my parents brought me up, which I am really thankful for. So keeping my integrity is also something else that I measure. Having time to visit friends, go on walks, run my business in a way that I enjoy and like. Grabbing time and having time for self, I think for me is a really good measurement of success. Having a happy community, whether that is my friendship community or it's my FTSQ and Lena Unedited community, the people that I have around me. And the new one that I've helped set up, which is the Creative Kiwi Collective community, which is just getting going. That's new. We'll talk about that another time. I'll put some notes into the notes for you so you can know what that's about. Community and building community that feels safe, that feels like they're getting value from me whenever I come on here and do Lena Unedited or put up a post for FTSQ, or giving away my time and my energy to purposeful communities, the gardening community that I have with Floralicious and the work that I do volunteering for the National Garden Scheme. It's all meaningful work, but it's also all giving back to a community that I think wants to hear fun things about plants and what have you. So for me, all those things, if you strip away comparison, if you strip away expectation and performance, to me, that is what success looks like. I'm at peace, I'm highly creative, I have more time, I have kept to my integrity, levels of integrity, my health, number one by far, my community is happy, and I'm doing purposeful, meaningful work. It would be interesting to know what you all think about, does that look like a better view of measuring success? I think you've got to then ask yourself is, or I've been asking myself this, is that what do I think happens to people when they spend years chasing someone else's version of success? I'm a prime example of that, actually. I think it's burnout. I think it's loss of identity. I think it's a massive feeling of emptiness and possibly even loneliness. It's resentment that you've chased after something that really, even if you end up achieving it, you then get there and go, I've spent all this time, energy chasing after this thing that I thought everybody thought looked like success. I get there and I don't feel successful. I know for a fact I definitely never felt successful. Weirdly, in this current situation I'm in, I feel more successful now with much less money in the bank, not as much clients coming in, which I'm working on changing, but there's so many things that I measured that now I'm happier, I'm more content in my life, and so forth. The other thing that I think happens when people spend too many years chasing after someone else's version of success is disconnection. And I think we're seeing that the impact of social media and what people think success looks like, I think has a direct effect on the disconnect that a lot of people are feeling. I think that's why people are feeling lonely. I think that is why there is a massive loneliness epidemic. And I don't think that epidemic is just with young men. I think it is with people across the board. I think people are feeling empty, resentment, and disconnection massively. And I don't think social media is helping with that. Social media, by the way, for me has been an amazing thing. It's kept, through all my illness, I was able to keep connection with my community. So do not get me wrong that I'm putting negative thoughts around social media. I think social media is just a platform. I think humans have caused the problem of ensuring that people feel burnout, identity loss, emptiness, resentment and disconnect. I think those things we've caused for ourselves. Social media was just a platform that made it bigger, made it more accessible, and has had a bigger impact, unfortunately, because the access is just so much easier. So that then makes me think, and don't get me wrong, I haven't got all the answers on all this, by the way, this is me rabbiting on, but it's like, I've always been a really ambitious person, but I've got to ask myself, can ambition and can contentment sit and exist together, or have we been taught that they're polar opposites? I think to a certain degree, I think we have been taught they're opposites. I think there's a lot of talk about goal setting, achieving your goals, and needing to sacrifice. I used to think that, and I think I'm working on it. I think I still do have a little bit of, well, in fact, I probably do have quite a lot of that, but I'm working on that because I don't think that we necessarily have to sacrifice as much as we think we do in order to achieve the things we want to achieve and to gain contentment. I think, so I do think we've been taught the polar opposites of those, but I don't think it serves us very well. I think we can still be ambitious. I think we can still be content with our lives and have a really rounded, holistic view of contentment, whether that, because we live a life that's not, we talk about separating work and life. I call bullshit on that. I've called bullshit on that before. I think life is just life. It has, if you think of life as a pie chart, it's got different slices that all fit in to make our life. We have our personal relationships, we have our romantic relationships, we have our work lives, we have our businesses, we have our careers, we have our work colleagues, we have our hobbies, we have our fun things, we have the things that we give back, we have our learning selves. There's so much that makes up life, right? It's our it's our children, it's all those things. And I think they don't sit separate from each other. I think our life is one life that we live. We have one crack at it. Well, I believe we have one crack at it. And once we live our life, that's it. It's done. So I think some people need ambition and drive. Some don't. And that's cool as well. I think we all need to define and sit down. And I recommend you do this. You sit down and you really think about, like, what is the life that I truly want to live and feel? What does that look like? Maybe start by just writing down a few thoughts, a few ideas, and then think about, like, and how does that ambition match up with the contentment that I want to feel when I've done those things or achieved those things or gained those things? Because I think they can, I do think that contentment and ambition run alongside each other. Something I'm worried about at the moment, I'm 52 years old. I've had quite a bit of time off work. Pension's looking questionable at this stage or where I need it to be. But then I thought, I've got to carry on working. Well, the thing is, I enjoy working. I enjoy being productive and I enjoy giving back. So the reality for me is, rightly or wrongly, I think I'll always be doing something. I'll always be running some kind of business or running some kind of organisation or community that's about supporting and giving back to people. And the goals that I've set for myself, and I've been in groups where it's about setting weekly goals or daily goals or something, and I do sort of write little goals for myself and things that I need to do for the day just to keep myself on track. But it's more about focus. I'm going to be honest with you, and I think everybody's different on this, and we talked about goal setting and so forth in a previous Lena Unedited. I do think that I need to have things to chase after because it's in my nature. I'm a driven person from that perspective. Balanced with, I need to have time to myself. I want to do fun things. I want to enjoy my life. And, I do think those things can be in balance. So I'd like to sort of talk to what I want young founders, or even, no, not just young founders, all founders, creatives, ambitious people to understand about success before you burn yourselves out chasing it. Be really honest with yourself, not just about what success looks like, but why that matters to you. I think it's really important to understand why you're chasing what you're chasing. Is it to a sense of self? Great. Is it to step up to other people's expectations, other people's views on what success looks like, whether that be family, whether that be a partner, children, what have you. I think understanding what the motivators are behind what's driving you towards success is going to be really, really key. And I think you need to be honest about those for yourself. For me, I think it's about being really honest with myself about what success looks like. I think I'm definitely getting there. It's about owning the bullshit that I tell myself, because I think the bullshit I tell myself puts huge amounts of stress and anxiety on myself, and I think a lot of people will recognise that. I just want to feel content. I want to get to the end of my life and to have left a legacy that has positively impacted my community and other people, and the people that I look up to as well as look up to me. I think it's really, really important to me that I leave behind a really valuable legacy that will live beyond me, that I will have created something that will have been built for generations that carry on. I went to the inaugural event for the launch of the Creative Kiwi Collective this week. It was really exciting, and we had an amazing speaker called Ken Rea, who has achieved massive success. And he talked about legacy as a New Zealander that's, gained success and ended up as a acting coach for some of the biggest stars in the world. People like McGregor and people, there's a big long list. I can't remember. I'll put it in the comments again. He talked about legacy and about being like a chain, and that you're part of a chain that when it's your moment in the sunlight, which is your part of the life of the legacy that has come from you and your family, your whānau, it's your whakapapa, which effectively means, your heritage. The sunlight comes onto you during your lifetime. What do you do in that moment of sun and moment of creating your legacy that then carries on down the chain? That resonated with me because I think that's really important. Legacy has always been important to me, what I intend to leave behind, and that became very sharply focused when it's at one point in my health and wellness journey in the worst depths of it. I wasn't sure I was going to make it out the other side. What came into sharp focus for me was that the legacy that I leave behind is really, really important. I think we need to think about the goals that we set and the ambitions that we have and the things that drive us through that lens of legacy. I think that's really, really important. So, going back to the topic that we started off with was, which was about, I think we've been measuring success all wrong. I still stand by that. I would challenge you all to think about what you think measuring success looks like. This is just my view on it. I'd love to hear from all of you. And thank you very much. And before I forget, oh God, I always forget to do this. Please please subscribe. And if you have any thoughts on things you would like me to talk about or, discuss or what have you, please drop them into the comments. I would love to hear from every single one of you. So yeah, that's me. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.